Greetings everybody, and welcome to G4G on YouTube. I hope you guys like the new intro that you saw at the beginning of the video. My girlfriend's been doing quite a lot of work in Blender lately after taking a break from it, and she decided she wanted to go ahead and do a channel intro for me. So the channel intro that you saw there is going to be the channel intro moving forward. Usually I change it with the beginning of every new year where I change the music and the intro, but since this is an original work that she did over the weekend, I'm going to go ahead and start using it now. Hope you guys like it, as it definitely does fit the theme of the channel, being games for gamers. The Tim's Tech Corner part of it is something that I will continue to do a different intro for whenever I do tech videos, which it's been a while. So today I've got some news for you guys. We're going to go over the announcements for Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux that happened over the weekend. So just to kind of ruin any suspense over here, this is not announcements pertaining to when Beta 4 will be out, although Goofy has said he's looking for September. Repeatedly, he's been mentioning that he wants the gap between 3 and 4 to be bigger in terms of progress, so that when you see 4, it's going to be a major evolutionary leap forward in the betas as compared to how it was between the alphas and the previous betas, where they took minor steps or they took sideways steps, where 2 was really good on combat, but then 3 didn't have active combat, but instead had a lot of UI elements that were updated for it. What he wants to do for 4 is have a more bigger jump, an Olympic-sized jump between 3 and 4 in terms of the progress. So we should be looking at full combat coming back, and I believe he is also looking at having several working statuses. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it, and that is talk about some of the new content that will be coming in Redux once the game goes final and we start going through the older original content's release schedule. So I've done videos on the past, but I'm going to reiterate that there is Avengers Alliance Redux.fandom.com. It is the MAAR wiki, similar in vein to the old MAA wiki. So the MAA wiki still exists. It is exactly where you expect it to be. What we have now is the Redux wiki, which has all the old content plus the new stuff the development team is working on. When I say development, I don't mean code development, which is what a lot of people think when they hear the word development. That would be Goofy. What I mean by the development team is think of it as the asset team, the people doing art and animations and sound and sprite sheets and all of that. So you can see here's some of the things that have been announced in the past, like Boom Boom, the movie version of Valkyrie, Agent 13, Stature, Jubilee, Rhino, Balder, Multiple Man, etc., etc. If you scroll down, you will see some other things that, and this is not a cheat sheet, this is all stuff that has been discussed, including stuff you're going to see me discuss today. Everything here is not a look behind the curtains, but it's all stuff that has been talked about in the past. So again, Avengers Alliance Redux.fandom.com, and then its wiki, category, and release material. I will put a link in the description of the video to this wiki so you can start browsing some of the stuff the team has been working on if you've missed the past videos. So for now, we're going to go ahead and jump right into what was announced over the weekend. And I've done a spiffy little presentation for this. The content team or the development team is not aware of it. I've worked on this ever since Bridget Rocks began to talk to me this morning about doing a video on it. I had seen the announcements, but I hadn't quite yet thought of a video on it. And then BR and I started talking, and the idea was planted to do a pretty good video on it. So I'm going to do something a little bit different in this one and make it rather concise and spiffy. So we're going to start this particular slideshow in just a moment. The first slide's kind of a bastard, so I can't do that one in a slideshow, but after that, we'll get it going. So the first dev that we're going to talk about is Kelvin, or Kelvin HR. He's the only one who has invented a piece of gear for this announcement, and it is called the PIM Particle Glove. If you look very, very carefully at the Redux wiki over there, you might have an idea as to who this is going to get associated with. So it is the PIM Particle Glove. It is a weapon. Kelvin's little comment on it is, I like the idea of extending and reducing the duration of effects, since I feel like it can work with almost any other character. Sizing the situation, which is a buff. Gain sizing down after successfully evading an enemy attack. Gain sizing up after successfully landing a critical hit on enemies when attacking. When you are sized down, your accuracy and evasion are increased by 50%. Attacks become stealthy and gain take by surprise. When you are sized up, your attack and defense go up. Attacks become catastrophic and gain widespread devastation. Mind you, the development team has shared that all of these numbers are still in a flux state at this point. They are not set in stone, although the ideas for the ISOs and the gears and everything you see here are set in stone. We just have not play tested any of the numbers yet. It is a special properties piece of gear, and it's multifunction, and it is customized. Action 1A, shrinking mode, stamina is 20%. It's a one enemy attack. It has no cooldown. Melee unarmed, special properties. It exploits combos and does a follow-up attack. One enemy suffers from rapid shrinking. Exposure to PIM particles has caused this target to experience uncontrollable shrinking. It is replaced by rapid growth, reduces attack and defense by 10% per application, increases accuracy and evasion by 10% per application, and it increases each round, and it does pain train and stacking. It increases the application of the debuff effects that may be stacked, and debuff effects that cannot stack are reapplied. Action 1B, enlarging mode, 20% stamina, one enemy again. No cooldown, melee unarmed, special properties, exploits openings, and does a follow-up attack. One enemy gets rapid growth, where exposure to PIM particles has caused this target to experience uncontrollable growth. It is replaced by rapid shrinking. So what he's telling you here is that there are two buffs that counter each other. There is either the growth one or the shrinking one, and when you change it up, you replace it. So it's sort of like bleeding is being replaced by immune to bleeding, and like vice versa. Poor example there. Hot and cold replacing each other, really. Reduces accuracy and evasion, but it increases attack and defense. Combo setup, downsizing, you can stack it as long as you don't change the buff that you're doing. Reduces the application of buff effects that may be stacked, buff effects that can't be stacked or removed. So again, that's what we've said. Prepared. Oh, okay. So I actually put two things on one slide over here, which you'll see in a moment I don't do, but I missed something here. So aside from the PIM Particle Glove, Kelvin has also done an ISO for Kraven the Hunter called Prepared Hunting Empowered Isotope 8. The hero's Kraven places a random trap at the start of every round. If the trap is successfully sprung, Kraven counters the attack with the most dangerous game move. And his comment is, I always thought the concept of Kraven's traps to be genuinely fun, but very dependent on luck of the draw. And I apparently have cut him off over here. Let's see. Just gonna check Kraven, so to speak. Okay. So I had that right on top of each other. I always thought the concept of Kraven's traps to be genuinely fun, but very dependent on the luck of the draw, so to speak. I did a really fun video back in the day called Kraven Blood that was Kraven and Mobius teamed up with each other because they both liked bleeds and they both were potion quaffers. So I made a setup between those two where using the potions was like a quick action. It would buff them based on the ISO that was slotted there. It was a really, really fun team, and honestly one of the team-ups that I enjoyed thinking of the name the most was Craven Blood, and that actually did seem to be one of the team-up names that people liked the most back in the day. Hogun and Spitfire, I think I had a team-up at one point called Spitgun, which is a lot better than Hofire. That one was also a fun one, and the team up of Molly and Heroic Age Iron Fist, which I actually wrote out for several seasons of Adamantium, was called Teams Molly Fist, or Team Punch Out. I like Team Punch Out. I think it's good, but you could maybe say it's copyrighted. Anyway, Veiling Empowered Isotope 8, we're still doing Kelvin's ideas at this point. It is for Scarlet Witch. Gains Chaos Shield when reality warping is successfully triggered. Kelvin's comment is, in my opinion, Scarlet Witch's Chaos Shield was her one action with low utility due to its chance to fail. By incorporating it with her passive, Kelvin hopes it will be more useful. Ducky Empowered Isotope 8. Obviously, Howard the Duck. 30% chance to drink a Ductini before attacking. Drinks another Ductini when feeling Ducky triggers, refreshing the duration of feeling Ducky. Kelvin's comment, Howard always struck me as a wacky character, so this seems like something he would do. By the way, I don't have the ability to discuss where these will drop or when these will drop. They are just simply announced in their existence, and again, the numbers may get play tested, so that may drop to like 20% chance to drink, or it may go up to 60% chance. It all depends on how play testing reveals everything to be. Bestial Empowered Isotope 8. It is for Beast. Does not consume Call of the Wild when attacking. Kelvin's comment is, Beast's main niche lies in his ability to support and buff his allies while buffing his attack. However, the buff is used up with one attack, which means to hit harder again, you basically gotta sit around and wait. And the way Beast cooldowns go doesn't really lend itself to it. This will hopefully remedy that. There was a discussion on whether or not this would be too overpowered, and the person who was against it, saying it was overpowered, I don't think they realized that you would be stacking the buff. He was kind of misapplying the logic there, thinking that every turn Beast doesn't do something, his buff is gonna be stacked. That's not what is the case there. It just says as to whatever stack he gets to, it won't be used up when he actually does a level 1 or the level 9. So I like this idea because Pesty has always been about the debuffs, and Beast has always been about the buffs. However, his level 1 is not to be ignored, and even though for Pesty the level 9 was not used too much, this could aid in it. Detecting Empowered ISO 8 for Karnak. Before attacking a target with a single target attack, it applies pressure points on the target. Attacks have a 50% chance to gain Paragon Exploiter when applying pressure points this way. Kelvin says the main focus for Karnak lies in hitting precisely and hard. His setup is rather simple, so I hope to add that while maintaining the air of simplicity. Lovely ISO 8, in my opinion here. By the way, I have not read any of these yet to a degree, so my reactions are going to be live. These are not canned thoughts over here. I'm evaluating them as I read them to you guys. I like a more natural reaction like that when I do these videos. This is really cool because Karnak kind of was a nowhere tune. He dropped from a PvP, was right around when I started hitting Adamantium consistently, but he wasn't used. And I'm not saying everybody that Playdom ever put into the game has to be used in multiple modes or even be a star in a mode. You know, you can throw out a shit character. Let's be honest. You have sports teams that are great, have dynasties like the New York Yankees, and then they have what they call a rebuilding season, air quotes. Some characters are a rebuilding season. I think this is really good for Karnak because if you maybe get him a combo setup to do, or the next unarmed attack does extra damage, and then you apply a pressure point and then exploit it instantly, I think it's very good. It could get super strong. That is a possibility. However, there's other characters out there where one character can set up the pressure point and another one can exploit it. So, self-containing with an in Karnak, I think kind of fits what Karnak's essence to be. So I definitely agree. I think this is a good one. Now we're going to move on to Jace from the development team. He's got an ISO for Heimdall. Yallarhorn is now a quick action. He says, I've always been into the intricacies of the feudal age, and I would not miss a chance to use a reference to it in Heimdall and Knight America's ISO. Sorry for the skip there for a split second. I thought I had moved on and didn't paste this right and was looking at his next ISO. So there were ways of making Yallarhorn a quick action. Now being able to do that within Heimdall himself and not have to rely on external forces, I think just really helps him. The good thing is Heimdall is used in PvP. His ability to shut down stealthers and give them the nope hand is really good. And I try to do a video and invent a team of Sandman and Heimdall back in the day using the Scroll of Aknazak to seal in Heimdall's buffs. And the fact that Heimdall and Sandman really liked rising up, this could be something that further cements that team as actually being valid, except the soak is not something you want to use on defensive PvP because it's just unwieldy and it may kill yourself before you get used out of it. But the Scroll of Aknazak or the Scroll of Uncle Zack was a lot of fun. Moving on, we skipped one. Hold on a second. It double popped it over there. Okay, Crusading Empowered ISO 8. Knight America. Knight America and his allies have a chance to join in on single target attacks. The comment is, I've always been into the intricate... Oh, same comment. So, Knight America, if you don't know about it, people who left the game early never got to experience Knight America. He was broken for a while. That really, he was able to change how buffs worked. And one of the biggest applications of that was to turn Black Cat into an absolute murder beast. I mean, we're talking murder mittens extraordinaire because you could stack her lucky buffs ad infinitum, really, and then nerve chop somebody and you would put up 5-digit numbers per attack and she would always attack twice. It was chop chop. So, I mean, just it occurred too late in the game for it to be really valid. I don't think we had a PvP season after Knight America had come of age. Possibly we did, but Playdom had already fixed the issue at that point. But I do have a screenshot of Black Cat just basically Chuck Norris chopping somebody to death. She made Chuck Norris look like all the jokes should have been about her and not him. Black Bolt gets the Reverberating Empowered ISO 8. Black Bolt's sonic attacks have a chance to cause collapsing infrastructure. Cool. Reminds me of Tampon Man. As for Black Bolt, he's always been a sentimental favorite for me. I wanted to make sure I got one that focused on the power of his voice. Really good idea because we lost Black Bolt to power creep over the years. Maybe not a little known fact if you're a friend of the channel, if you've been a constant and loyal viewer over the years. Black Bolt was in the video that Kingfisher released way back when called The Thing is Invincible in PvP. When Kingfisher did that video, he said he wanted to make a video about Black Bolt and his idea, but it became about Thing because it was a living organism that he did with the video, and he switched it to being about Thing instead of Black Bolt. What the idea was is that using the what would later be the Jade Prism, but would be the Emerald Prism at the time, the Emerald Prism would essentially said every time you're attacked, your defense goes up. Every time you're attacked, your attack goes up. So, he was trying to aid in Black Bolt's sonic buff that builds up. The kind of the particles whose name is escaping me at the moment, but that basically that sonic buff that goes out on the team and then he consumes it for big attack later on. Well, he would apply it to Thing in the video, and every time Thing would tank and get his own defense getting up, because of his own traits and everything like that, the Black Bolt thing would also kick in too, and the Emerald Prism. So he basically made the Thing able to withstand anything. That was the video that got me into really doing my own videos for Marvel Avengers Alliance, because it was a very thinking man's video, sort of like building a crazy Magic the Gathering deck. And it's nice to see Black Bolt come around and get some love, because a lot of people just largely forgot about him until the Inhumans rework, and even then it wasn't enough to really bring him back to the forefront. Daredevil gets the Immutable Empowered Isotope 8. Possessed, interrupts, and mind control effects have a reduced effect on Daredevil. The dev comment is, I wanted to work a law reference in as a law student. Not to mention, I was in awe of Daredevil's willpower during the King in Black arc. Skirmishing Empowered Isotope 8 for Ares. Ares and his allies are granted Warbound. The comment is, as the god of war, it felt weird not to give Ares Warbound, since mythologically Ares was revered in Thrace. I felt this was a good idea. I felt this was apt. A lot of people that I've seen in the channel say they really like this one for Ares, and I think it's good because the War Splitter axe is the one associated to Ares, not the other one, which is more for Hulk's passive. The War Splitter axe was not particularly too popular, but that other golden colored axe was. And of course that one gave you what basically that Hulk uniform did. And I think this is a good one, as again, breathe some life back into Ares. Hopefully it comes a little later in Ares being in the game, because if this one is around right when Ares drops, this may be scary, because Ares and other bleeders were very big in PvP at the time Ares came out. I used Ares with Sabretooth at the time. Very, very heavy bleed team. So now we're moving on to Dev Rainbow Panda, who gets a nice rainbow title over here. He has the Invigorated Hunting Empowered Isotope 8 for Havoc. When Havoc attacks, he has a 5% chance for each stack of cosmic energy to gain tactical maneuvers. Panda says Havoc is often overlooked compared to his two siblings, but Havoc is a force to be reckoned with, and with this EISO it elevates him to being as good as Cyclops. I disagree that he was overlooked. I think Havoc maintained what he was good at throughout the game's history as not a glass cannon, but with the power of a glass cannon. Kingfisher did a video on how when Pesty came out, even though you might face a Tactician Pesty as a Blaster Havoc, that the way to beat Pesty teams was to use Havoc at the time to basically just like try to one-shot somebody out of there and keep them all exhausted with the plasma spheres. He did get a little love later on when one of the ISOs was changing up the kicks like a mule part. I think there is a good point in saying that Cyclops was able to adapt with the times over the game's period because he got uniforms and everything, whereas Havoc never really moved. So that part is true, but I think Havoc always kind of maintained a reasonable power level and wasn't like quite forgotten. Overcharged Isotope 8 again for Havoc. You gain up to 10 stacks of cosmic energy. So Panda says when combined with his first ISO, he gains the ability to have a 50% chance to gain an extra attack, which is a wonderful benefit for such a heavy damage dealer as Havoc. Kitty Pryde gets a phasing empowered Isotope 8. Kitty Pryde cannot gain tangible by attacking. Both phasing and tangible gain an extra round. Phasing may only be applied once. This refreshes after Kitty Pryde gains tangible. Panda says Kitty Pryde has always been one of my favorite characters in the Marvel Universe, and being one of the original 28 heroes, she got power crept out pretty hard. That's true. With this ISO, Kitty Pryde hopefully isn't so far behind the power curve. Agreeable, Kitty Pryde was largely forgotten, partially because Ghost tanking was nerfed by Playdom where you can't do it, and rightfully so. That was not a particularly fair thing. Although I didn't really face it too much in PvP, and Ghost Rider was a big part of it, but this gives a little bit of power back to Kitty Pryde. Colossus gets the bolstering empowered Isotope 8, which is Colossus takes 33% reduced damage, counters all attacks while Steel Curtain is active. Panda says, as with Kitty, Colossus was another original hero that quickly fell behind the others and never caught up. I'm going to call bullshit on that one. Colossus came back when Emma came to the forefront of PvP with the pre-firing Infiltrator ISO that allowed her to Psychic Tap as the attack was coming in, thereby making Psychic Tap unavoidable. I think this is a big miss in this commentary over here, to forget that Colossus came back as a massive tank during that time and was incredibly tough to take down while Emma just picked your team apart. It took people quite a lot of work and a reasonable amount of time to adapt to the Colossus Emma team, especially when it was Phoenix 5 Emma and Phoenix 5 Colossus, who was constantly making himself nearly impossible to kill. I think glossing over that period of time, which probably seems longer than it actually was, but that season where this was really popular, it was a very, very tough team to take down. So apparently I have ISO choice number 5, an Occultist empowered Isotope 8, which I got to see over here. I think I have a bad paste job again. Let me see if that one is supposed to be with Nico. Yes, it is. Okay. So we are now going to be talking about Nico over here, and it is in relation to that ISO. Witch Arm becomes a multi-action where she gains Hellblast and Vivid Wave. Lesser and Greater Arcanas also gain a new ability. Vivid Wave. One enemy gets hit with a ranged magic attack, one attack, no cooldown. Her animation looks more like a magic missile than a regular blast. It does guaranteed hit, exploit attrition. Hellblast becomes... So the original is 1A, 1B is the new one, and then 1C is another new one called Hellblast. Ranged fire magic, 3 hits, no cooldown. Animation idea is her level 1, except it looks like fire. One enemy gets Burning and Bane. Action 2, protect all allies, gain a buff, no cooldown. Animation idea, reusable motions from the sprite sheet. Special properties is it's part of the Staff of One. All allies gain a magic shield. It's the same as the original except for only 3 rounds. Action 3 is heals with a Z and an exclamation point. It's a buff for all allies. Reusable motions again. It's a Staff of One. All allies get detox and blood clot. For every stack of bleeding that Nico has, she increases the heal by 5%. So it shows that she can become a bit of a role player in your team, having some support characteristics to herself, which is really good. I've always wanted to see an ISO that could maybe do something. The Staff of One was a really fun idea. However, when you had long, protracted PvP battles, which you were often wont to do in the Nico and Pesty era of PvP, which was like around the arcade Spec Ops, and the No Mercy set, the Apocalypse set, sometimes it's very easy to forget what you've actually cast from Nico when you have 2 big multifunctions like that. And then you waste a turn because it fizzles. It's very risk, but very little reward with Nico. I mean, some of them were absolutely great, and she had one that was sort of like the cube AoE, but I just wish there was some way of really telling you what you have cast so that you don't accidentally cast it again. And EISO could fix it by removing the cast issues with it, where you can cast it again, but you would need to introduce cooldowns so that you didn't constantly use like a heavy exploit move from Nico's kit over and over again. Like, make it recastable, but put a cooldown that was long enough that most battles you're not going to see it. This way, the cooldown indicator would tell you you've cast this already because you see it's cooling down for 2 rounds. But those long protracted battles where maybe nobody's really getting ahead because you're both kind of a pesty, slow burn team, you then maybe have the ability through careful planning to do it again. So Panda says, MAA showed us that EISOs really shake up a person's kit, with Ant-Man's kit getting an additional move to represent his beginning. This EISO carries on that proud tradition, showing that Nico can gain a bigger grasp on magic as time progresses, affording her more moves that both her Witch Arm and Staff of One can do. Now that we've talked about characters and EISOs, we're going to introduce a one-shot that has been announced. When Redux is in its final form and it is active, the development team has come up with these things called one-shots, which is basically a self-contained story that tells itself from start to finish within one single mission. So they have the one-shot Guardians of the Barbecue. What happens when the Guardians of the Galaxy move to Earth to continue their work for S.H.I.E.L.D.? Well, they throw a huge barbecue, of course. Hopefully not lighting Groot on fire at the time. I'd hate to think of somebody realizing the barbecue was starting to go out and somebody grabs a piece of Groot. But some of the neighbors aren't thrilled with the new arrangement. Whether they're at the bank or the post office or IKEA, these self-proclaimed jackasses take on the new mantle of Guardians of the Neighborhood. So that is a one-shot that has been announced. And that is the end of the announcements today. So I definitely appreciate you guys sticking with me the whole time over here. We had some fun stuff to talk about today. Beta 4 is still being worked on again. Not really able to give you a firm date on anything like that yet, but Goofy is shooting for September. This one has taken a while because he's fixing a lot of the original code that was redundant in Playdom's work. And it's a real testament to Goofy that he can look at code that an entire company produced and go, wow, this is duplicated over here and duplicated over here, but it's not the same reference. Why don't I just make it the same reference and save down on a whole bunch of code over here rather than reinventing the wheel every time that I want to use the wheel? So he's been working on that. He's been working on statuses, and he's taking a lot of mental breaks in the coding to make sure his coding skills stay sharp and he doesn't burn out on the actual coding, because Lord knows you can deep dive into code and just get lost in it and just kind of realize you haven't come up for air in a couple weeks. So hopefully September for Beta 4. What you see here today is not going to be in Beta 4, but in the actual game whenever the development team says it fits the timeline. I can't tell you where Guardians of the Barbecue are going to show up or where the Nico ISO is going to show up. I can say that if you do enough detective work, you can probably figure out where the Pym Particle Glove is going to show up. Just do a little bit of research on the Redux Wiki. So, thanks guys for watching the video. I hope you liked the PowerPoint presentation style of this one. And I hope you like the new intro that you got to see from my girlfriend Ori Kalkin. I will drop a link to her Reddit in the description too. Thanks everybody, and look forward to talking again with you guys in the future.